And also the fact that I'm a man who has a vagina. So that's a whole other level. But what I do is I fight against it.
Hi guys, my name is Alex. I am a sex coach and welcome back to another episode of Sex Coach Reacts. We are going back, diving right back into Jubilee's What is Sex Like for Porn Stars? I'm going to react to it, see what we can learn from it, see what we can gain from it. Hopefully it is not as depressing as the last one, because the last one was pretty depressing. If you haven't caught that video, go check it out. I will link it down in the description. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I will link it in the description below, and then come back to this one and also subscribe and do all that fun stuff too, because that's pretty awesome. So let's dive in. This is basically where people are submitting questions to porn stars. The porn stars are answering them, and we're gonna learn some stuff about what it's like to be a porn star.
How do you protect yourself from STIs and pregnancy? I know girls who are just on birth control, and I know girls who are not on birth control and they just don't shoot when they're ovulating.
We get tested so often, every 14 days, and then sometimes it's like more frequently than every 14 days.
Not to say that we don't catch the couple little bacterial infections here and there. It's kind of part of the job, but we try to be very careful with it.
My sets are only safe sex, so I'm condom only. We clean our sets. I've been to sets that are pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie to you, but sets I use and where I shoot, we always make sure everything is clean. We make sure everything is comfortable.
Okay, yeah, that's a big issue, and it's another issue that you would have to address if you're going to have casual sex all the time. If you're having sex with strangers ever, there is going to be a risk. There is always a risk. There are always consequences to having sex. That's why you should wait for someone that you trust. Get to know someone before you have sex with them. Not only is the sex going to be better, but you are reducing the risk of the negative consequences and bacterial infections that are just part of the job if you're a porn star, apparently.
Have you ever developed feelings for a co-star or hooked up after filming? Ooh, ooh. Yes, the tea is hot. The majority of the people are pretty hot, so it's hard not to.
Yeah.
It was actually the first guy that I filmed with. So I had like this huge crush on him. I was just amazed by the way he threw it on me.
I have seen problems happen between oh yes, jealousy, I've seen it happen. If the partner isn't shooting with their own partner, or all of a sudden the other partner who's in porn doesn't want the other partner to do porn anymore.
Probably not. My job is a full-time job, and it's a real relief to be able to be with someone that takes me away from that a little.
Okay, so everyone, yes, except for the asexual girl, and I know she's asexual because of the previous reaction video I did. So again, if you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it. But yeah, you cannot ever just ignore the connection that is built through a sexual experience, whether you are forcing it through porn or not, or if it's an organic thing and you guys met each other and you're just having sex. You can't get rid of that. So to try to is a futile effort, and it's also not good to try to strip away any connection, any emotional component to a sexual experience. It's going to happen. We are biologically wired that way. We have a cascade of biological things that happen to us, hormones getting released, everything like that, that are binding us to another person. And so yes, of course there are going to be feelings, and yeah, there's going to be jealousy, and the same thing will apply if you have casual sex. If you are going into a sexual experience hoping for just a one-night thing and never seeing that person again, you can hope for it, but it's not going to work that way. Your biology is going to fight against that. Your biology is connecting you to that person, and it is not good mentally to continually try to ignore that. And I've seen so many times people with emotional distress, mental issues, mental health issues, because they try to divorce the connection aspect of sex from sex, and they try to make sex meaningless. Sex can never be meaningless. It's always going to be an important and crucial thing in your life. So don't make that mistake. Only have sex with people that you feel comfortable connecting with and bonding with in that experience. It's going to make the sex better, and it's going to make your mental health outcomes better as well.
What's the worst part of the job? I always tell this to people. I wouldn't change anything about my job. I would change the way people and society view my job.
I know girls who just got a brand new apartment and moved in there, and they found out what they did, their neighbors, and then they like send their pictures to everybody in the complex and be like, oh, this girl does porn, make sure you watch out for her. Like, stuff like that really does happen.
The mainstream in the world hates pornography, and I'm not sure if we'll ever be accepted. And also the fact that I'm a man who has a vagina, so that's a whole other level. But what I do is I fight against it. Porn would not be as big as it is if people didn't consume it. This is what I keep trying to tell the world.
Society hasn't accepted adult entertainers yet, and it really limits what I can do with my future. I'm a violinist, and it was part of my life goals to conduct a high school orchestra one day. I can't do that anymore. That is sacrifice. That is gone. The next job interview I go for after this, I might not get it just because the fact that my nudes are on the internet.
Okay, so the worst part of the job is people's perception of what you do. And I disagree that porn is not mainstream and not accepted into the mainstream. I think it is extremely accepted into the mainstream. It's extremely pushed on people. It is out there, and everyone seems to watch it or has watched it, and so it's not like this crazy taboo thing. Of course people are going to judge you for what you do as a living because they think that that's not real work, and that happens with so many professions, not just porn professions, where people see it as not work because it's something that they don't typically do or they haven't ever done, or it's just so outside of their frame of reference of what real work is. So there's going to be that stigma always, and when you get into sexual type employment, it is still very taboo. Porn itself is not, though. I mean, the followings that porn stars have on like Twitter, social media, it's crazy. The amount of views that porn videos get is insane. So these people aren't like, they're not like hated by society. They are loved by so many people. They're adored by so many people. They're simped on by so many people. So I don't think it's really that like awful to be a porn star. But again, I am not one, so maybe you do get the hate, but I think it's like everything else that you do. When you put yourself out there, you are opening yourself up to criticism. Me doing these videos, I am opening myself up to criticism, but I figure if I can help people in however few people I can help, it makes it worth it, and I don't care if people criticize me. And the other thing is that humans always tend to hang on to the negativity, they hang on to the criticism, and even if you've gotten a million compliments, they just go right over your head. Once you hear one bad thing about yourself, you just dwell on that forever, and it's just part of your psyche forever, and you just can't get rid of it, and it's just there. You're just replaying it over and over again. So I think there's some of that. I think it's a little bit taboo. Some people will think of it as not doing work. It's not real work. So you get some of that. And then, yeah, there is the type of thing, if you're applying for a job and you're representing the company, they don't necessarily want someone that is associated with that. So I can see that as well from a business standpoint. But, I mean, porn stars are adored and loved. This video itself, how many views does this video have? This video almost has 1 million views, and I'm sure a lot of these people have a lot of fans that are watching this video. So, to me, I don't see porn as being, like, extremely taboo. I see it as being pretty accepted worldwide and highly consumed, and I think it should be consumed way less. And I've been ranting about this answer for far too long, going in circles, so let's move on.
How is the topic of consent handled on set? Very important.
Oh, I love this question. Thank you for asking that question. Earlier on, porn was not about consent. We didn't have these regimented rules that we have today. People would just show up, have sex. If the girl didn't want to do anal, tough, you're doing anal. I mean, there's been lots of that happening. So that doesn't happen as much anymore.
When you're on set, there's like a checklist of like what you agree to do, and like you talk with the director and your partner. Consent is like my favorite thing, and I think it's hot. Like one of my scenes the other day, like the guy was like, "Can I do this to your vagina?" And I was like, "Can I do this to your penis?"
I get asked to do a lot of really bizarre, outrageous things. The list is just a mile long. Role play involving race or rape play, I'm not comfortable with that. I got a lot of requests for custom orders from white supremacists. I practice a philosophy called enthusiastic consent. So unless if I'm absolutely enthusiastic to post it, I do not create it.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this here and interject a little bit because what they're saying is not necessarily true. So many people still are coerced or forced into these sexual jobs, and they're manipulated into it at a young age. So many women are manipulated, stolen, brainwashed into doing these things. The porn industry is an awful industry. Seriously, it's terrible. You shouldn't consume any of it because you don't know if the person that you're watching is a victim of all sorts of things. So to say that porn is so much better and we have consent now and enthusiastic consent, that is an illusion. Maybe these people do, but there are still so many victims in porn, and it's the way it is, and it's not good, and it shouldn't be promoted in any way.
Have you been in experiences where boundaries were maybe crossed for you?
Definitely. And I think like I played a part in that mostly because I wasn't aware of how to like articulate my boundaries or wasn't aware of what my boundaries were. I would just like agree to everything without like asking what that entails.
Yeah, I was, and I felt like it was a setup. And the crazy thing was, I was excited to shoot for that company because they were one of the biggest companies on Pornhub. And I felt really comfortable. I'm like, okay, the makeup artist is here, this other assistant, she's here. Usually when there's women on set, I really let my guard down. And me and the director, we started taking photos, and I noticed the house got quiet. And I asked the director, I was like, where are the two women? He was like, oh, they left. And when me and him started filming, he was so rough. And I am a victim of rape. So like the things that he was doing, my body just like shut down, and it was just so painful having sex with him. By the time I got home, I was just so tired and exhausted, and I locked myself in my room for like 2 days because I couldn't believe what I had gone through.
I think this is probably extremely common in porn, and especially toward women. I feel like so many women are probably coerced, forced into doing stuff, and it's not even that I feel like it. It's true. This stuff happens, and by watching it, by paying for it, by giving it attention, you are promoting it, and you are possibly encouraging these people, these bad people that are doing these awful things that are going to ruin these people's lives or at least affect them for the rest of their lives. You are promoting that. So think about that. Watching porn does no good for you. First of all, it's highly addicting. It'll ruin your sex life. It warps your sexuality, what you like, what you are interested in sex, and it can produce these horrible outcomes for people. These rapes, these awful sexual abuses, assaults, harassments, and it's all around an ugly industry, especially these big studio things, these big productions. They're not in it for the well-being of the porn stars, right? They're in it for the money, they're in it for the viewership, so they're going to do whatever extreme needs to be done, whatever they can do, whatever they can get away with in order to get those views, to get that money. So it's an all-around, it's an ugly industry, and by watching it, you're promoting that.
Do you ever worry about the way the porn industry portrays sex? Yes. The biggest critique I have about the porn industry is it lacks any sense of intimacy, any sense of realness.
This may be an unpopular opinion, but I think that tube sites are a bad thing. The free porn world is putting out scenes, and it's so easy for children to just get on these sites and to learn from porn scenes.
Just for me as a performer, I really wanted to see more realistic sex instead of something like, hi, my name's Tiffany, and then like anal sex ensues, you know, like like it's a fantasy and not realistic.
You don't see the behind the scenes, the discussion between the scene partners, and I wish us as porn stars, like we would be more open and tell people like, hey, we gave consent for this. It's not okay to pick up a random girl at a bar and spit in her mouth and slap her.
I feel in straight porn, it's a lot more aggressive. The woman is like always submissive, and I just feel like that's rooted in so much like hatred for women and like misogyny. Like a woman has to do what the man wants and like make him feel good.
I think the porn industry is becoming a lot more diversified now. And I'm really excited to see how platforms like OnlyFans adds a sense of realness back into adult material.
We're producing for you, the consumer who wants to watch it. We are in no way wanting children to watch it. We don't even think it's sex ed. It's a fantasy, it's fun. So for me, my work has always been activism. And so really putting it out there and saying, look, I enjoy my life. I enjoy sex. People enjoy watching me have sex. It's a consensual thing between adults who are having a great time and giving it to you to watch to have a great time too. I don't worry about it, but I do think the more we talk about it, it will be less stigmatized.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was said there. The porn industry portrays sex as not intimate at all, not realistic at all, and it's mostly physically based, and it's mostly male driven and what is going to satisfy the man. So young kids are going on these tube sites like that porn star said and learning about sex. Their first introduction to sex is through porn, and so they think that that is what sex is. And even young women are watching that. They're watching this male driven porn and they're thinking, I have to perform this way. And the men, of course, they're thinking, I have to perform this way as well. It needs to be this rough, dirty thing where I'm extremely dominant. There's no emotional connection. There's no kind of even connection or bond between the people. It's promoted doing it with strangers. I mean, you rarely see a porn where it's like, oh, we're married and we're gonna have sex on film. The scenarios are always some stranger or some taboo thing, and it's not realistic at all, and it does promote bad sexual thoughts and behaviors. So if you needed any other reason to not watch porn, then there's another one for you again. They're doing what is selling, they're doing what is making them money, getting them views, and the more extreme they go, then apparently that's getting them more views. So there you go. That was What Sex is Like for Porn Stars, Part 2, finished, completed, and not as depressing, hopefully maybe a little bit more uplifting and motivational so that you guys can stop watching porn altogether, kick the habit, and become better people, better mentally and physically and everything, better at sex, and your whole life will improve if you get rid of porn, basically. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Until next time, go out and have better sex and stop watching porn. Bye, guys.